just seen that all of them had been wiped out. The doctors had imagined that a transplant would be needed, but now there's no question of if Hisashi's body can ever recover, because right now it doesn't even have the tools to make new immune cells. After seeing the severity of this, they began a new procedure where they did something called a PCR test. A PCR test had been a thing for a while, but in 1999 there was a new way that you could get results within a few hours rather than sending it off to a laboratory. A PCR test allows you to see the very early stages of an infection, either a virus, bacteria, or fungus, so that you can see if a microbe is present before it starts to show symptoms. So they did this on Hisashi multiple times a day, because if this guy gets like a cold, it will kill him fast because his body has zero defense. Some other figures for you nerds out there like myself: his white blood cell count was about 900, which is a tenth of what it should be, and his platelet count was about 26,000. Healthy people are between 120 and 380,000. So the first order of business is getting this guy a marrow transplant. Their best option for this is a stem cell graft, where stem cells are placed into the bone marrow, where hopefully his system will accept the transplant and then use that chromosomal code as the new blueprint so that it can rebuild his bone marrow. The problem with this is the donor and recipient have to be an exact match on their HLA, or the leukocyte antigens. However, thankfully, despite siblings only having a 1 in 4 chance of being a match, Hisashi's sister was a match, and his sister was more than willing to give up whatever her brother needed to keep him alive. So they gave her a drug that increased the stem cell production in her blood and then did a peripheral blood transfusion. In other words, typically they have to go into the bone marrow and take a sample, but all they did here was spike her body with a lot of stem cells, and then they hooked her up to a machine that took the blood out of her body, separated the blood from the stem cells, and then put the blood back into her body. Now, whereas a normal donation would require a not huge amount of stem cells, they had to rebuild Hisashi's body from scratch. And they ended up taking 160 milliliters of stem cells from Hisashi's sister in a process that took 4.5 hours. So they gave him the transfusion and just had to wait to see if it would take root. In the meantime, the effects were beginning to set in for Hisashi. At first, as mentioned, there was a few minor pains, and then he had trouble breathing, and he began to get very thirsty and dehydrated. Again, his body can't produce any more mucosal linings, so his entire system's going dry. The most frightening development came when, just after a week since his exposure, he began to lose pieces of his skin en masse. It began whenever they would take off the medical tape that was on him to change out tubes or needles. It would just rip entire sections of skin off. At the same time, the nurses who were washing his feet had to stop because anytime they'd scrub his feet, the skin would just peel off. Remember that whole system I described with the bone marrow, where typically the cells that need to be regenerated can't be regenerated anymore? Well, the same applied to Hisashi's skin. Skin, for those that don't know, is constantly growing from the lowest layer of the skin, or the subcutaneous layer, up to the epidermis. In about 2 weeks, the top layer of your skin goes through a complete cycle, and the dead cells simply fall off. But if your body can't produce new cells, then your entire layer of skin just kind of detaches from the rest of you, and you just exist in it like it's some sort of soup. And this dead layer of skin that was disconnected but still completely wrapped around him was just coming off in clumps. The only bright side to this being, since the skin was effectively